That somebody burning a pile of books may have been what set off that. A massive wildfire near Jacksonville. It's according to Florida Forest Service officials. So the fire destroyed at least 10 buildings and charred 400 acres. Now, some people say they had to leave their homes at a moment's notice.
We were told to evacuate. I don't think we have much choice.
I'm fixing to lose everything that we have, that we've worked hard for. There's a lot of things that we're not going to be able to replace. Pictures, furniture that was my grandmother's, and just different things, you know, my grandchildren's pictures and things, just a lot of stuff.
Heartbreaking. At last check, they had the fire about half contained.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to George Soros. Born into a Jewish family in Hungary, George Soros escaped Nazi occupation to build a life of freedom for himself and countless others around the world. Educated in England, he settled in America as he became an investor and philanthropist, supporting key pillars of open societies: rights and justice, equity and equality, freedom now and in the future. His inspiring generosity reminds us all of our capacity and our obligation to stand up to the abuse of power and to be guardians of democracy and all people yearning to be free.
My recommendation to President Trump is that you notify today that you're going to sign an executive order on Monday. One of the very first actions is to rescind the Presidential Medal of Freedom that's being given to George Soros today. Rescind it. They're going to say, well, you can't rescind it. So, okay, well, fine. Try me. And send a team to track down Soros and take the medal back.
Is this one a dirty Nazi, General?
It is a disgrace that a demonic individual like that has gone out of his way to try to destroy this country.
Oh boy, Nazis.
Given.
The only way that you can really stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. It's very upsetting. It has a bad moral effect.
Forced adversity.
Ask yourself, what's more terrifying? Fear or the frightened?
The facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
Bad, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Up yours, woke moralists.
Socialism has spread the shadow of human regimentation over most of the nations of the earth.
And they're pushing identity politics with this. They 100% are.
How do you think homosexuals reveal themselves?
And the shadow is encroaching upon our own liberty.
I think there ought to be a law against them. Tonight I'm going to show you why.
Welcome to the FAP. Nancy used to do that for me. Handsy Nancy, I called her.
Oh, and by the way, on behalf of the people of the United States.
What?
I can explain. So his
How? Whom?
What happened is he was trying to come back from hell through where he was buried. But fortunately for us, his plot in the
Has been
cemetery
urinated on too many times.
it has been used as a gender-neutral bathroom, and he's got too much debris to work his way through. So thankfully, gender-neutral bathrooms have saved America from the zombie apocalypse.
Well, because somebody took it upon them, had the bright idea to bless their urine before they pissed all over his grave. So it was holy piss, and he couldn't break through that soil. What's up, Bob? How's it going?
Pretty good. How are y'all doing?
Not bad. Morgan?
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Somebody else's dream, seems like sometimes, but
it feels like it, but
So we fapping. It's been a while. It's been a while.
has.
We're a little backed up.
Boy, I've needed to fap. Let me tell you.
Forgive us if we're a little shaky.
Yeah.
And we're not. We got to kind of like get our strokes under control and everything. We got to,
Feeling a little blue.
Yeah. See who we got here. Blissful Haze. Screwface. Man, Screwface, do you miss the stream? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I appreciate it.
He does not know. He's here more than I am. Oh, McLeod's here.
There's McLeod.
Yeah, I feel like McLeod and Screwface are always here. They're like always looming at the periphery of our consciousness, waiting to pounce when we go online.
It has been a spell.
It's like they're stalking us.
Or I think our equilibrium started to feel a little off and everything. We're just like walking around like, just something's weird. We gotta.
Well, we extended no FAP November all the way through December into the new year, so we're
a little backed up, but we made it.
So I guess we got a couple of things that we wanted to talk about, and then they're kind of related. It's one kind of biggish topic, I suppose. I don't know. Did you guys hear that a Cybertruck caught fire in front of a Trump Tower in Vegas?
It's the picture that embodies 2025.
Yeah, they just caught fire for no reason.
Clearly.
That's what a couple of headlines seem to imply, but I don't know. So let's find what the fuck he said. This is one of the reasons that not having Twitter anymore is like, what do I do? Because where do I go to find this? But let's see. So somebody had shared a specific headline or specific thing on they excreted, as I think David Pacman calls it on X. I think it's a pretty good word. They excreted. Let's see. There we go. Yeah. Musk suggests he's prepared to sue media over coverage of the Cybertruck attack. So I guess we should get into the Cybertruck attack first. Because, I mean, is anybody not aware of what happened there? Is anybody not caught up on
headline? Can you read that headline again? Musk prepares what?
He suggests he's prepared to sue media over coverage of Cybertruck explosion. And what's funny is that headline right there is actually one that he probably would want to sue over.
Probably.
And so it's just funny because I mean, I think I don't know. I don't think you guys maybe had some journalism experience to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Like at least in school, and like anybody that knows anything about journalism knows that these headlines broadly. I'm not saying there's not any out there that aren't saying something, that's intentionally trying to imply something. But first of all, the first day or so, it was completely unclear what had happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
which is typical. It's called the
which
fog
is normal.
of war effect.
Yeah, it's
so
pretty normal.
That you can only go with the facts that you have. Saying that a Cybertruck either exploded or caught fire in front of a Trump thing, that's the only objective statement you can make.
Right.
But then to be fair, there have been some after it was found out that it was an seemingly intentional thing that also said more or less the same thing or said that they're the Cybertruck that caught fire or whatever. So he seems to be upset that they are including the type of vehicle in the headline at all. Because I mean, and at first glance, if you're kind of a dipshit or you're a Musk stan and you don't like to think past the end of your nose, you might think he's got a point because, they don't say whenever it's a Ford truck that was, on fire or whatever, it'll just say that a car or a vehicle or whatever. Right. And that's true. The difference is that this is a specific point of public interest, considering Musk is Musk, and he donated the largest amount of money into a presidential campaign as anyone in history from anyone in history, and he's now seemingly, exercising quite a bit of power even before Trump takes office.
I don't think it's slanderous to say that he tried to buy the election.
Right, and so and
I don't think he tried; he succeeded.
You're right.
It would be journalistically irresponsible to not include the fact that this is a Musk branded vehicle that was done outside of Trump branded property. It would be journalistic malpractice to not say those things. But he's taking it personally, apparently, like they're trying to fucking smear his truck or whatever, because that's what.
And I think another part of it is that he, for as long as he has had the hands of power at Tesla, he has wanted that brand name in the news as much as possible.
Yeah.
That since he took over that company, he has wanted the headlines. It's just that when he first created that expectation and that reporting and worked towards those sorts of reporting cycles about his products, people viewed them favorably. And with the Cybertruck, it's been kind of a mess, and it's a meme how many issues it has and how it's not a completed product. So even before this, he set himself up to be in the headlines, and he is now reaping what he sowed.
Yeah, he made a shitty product. Full disclosure, I did take a lift and rode in a Tesla for the first time the other day. I wasn't impressed. In fact, the door opening situation, the fucking button is the same one as the window to open the door to get out. And I didn't know that. And I'm like, because I know that's an automatic thing or whatever, something you press a button. And the guy was like, oh, just press the button. And I'm like, that looks like the window button, but okay. And I hit it to kind of tap it, and the window comes down a little bit, and the door didn't open. And he's like, no, you got to hit it a little more. I was like, what? Did they really make the fucking button for the window and the door the same thing?
Yeah, so the window and the door button are the same thing. I believe some of them have only one pedal. They have a mono pedal system of some variety.
I mean, and one thing that is true is that mile for mile, because there's far more combustible engine gas engines on the road than there are Teslas.
Yep.
But so mile for mile, Teslas do burn far less than those other cars, which makes sense because they're literally combusting gasoline.
And they're not the only brand of electric car either.
True. But so it's just that's true. They do burn less on the road than other cars, so great, good for him. But yeah, it's just really weird that okay, let me give the official thing here. So this is from The Independent. Are they actually independent? I don't know. They do ask for support a lot. Elon Musk appeared Thursday to threaten the media with lawsuits if he doesn't like the way they're reporting the Cybertruck explosion outside the Trump International Hotel and Tower, Las Vegas, on New Year's Day. He issued the warning in response to a post on X Thursday from conservative activists. Don't like him using his last name, Robbie Starbuck. Going through a watch through of BSG with my girlfriend now. Saying that Musk, the CEO of Tesla, which manufactures Cybertrucks, should consider suing outlets whose headlines are sabotaging the brand by making people think the Cybertruck had caught fire. Okay, so there's several things. It's just for one thing, the people that are dumb enough to not read past a headline and just read a headline and think they have the entire story, those are already Musk fans.
Yeah, don't just read the headline and think you know what the story is. Just in general, think the only thing you know is that you've read a headline that says a thing happened. That's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also objectively true to say that it caught fire, especially like we said, the first day before there was really any information.
Right. Go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say that notice how Musk's definition of good journalism is only stuff that is good for the brand. He to his mind, journalism and advertising are the same thing.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Trump.
That's not uncommon for business people or
of
politicians.
Course.
Yeah,
or reactionary.
They want free advertising for their products. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, I mean, the blast occurred early Wednesday when the Cybertruck, rigged with fireworks mortars, gasoline, and camping gas canisters, exploded in front of the hotel's main entrance. So, yeah. The driver, active duty Green Beret Matthew Levelsberger, fatally shot himself before the explosion and died inside the vehicle. 7 bystanders were injured. Nobody else was killed, thankfully. And then there's that whole branch of the conversation too, the whole Levelsberger thing, because he's a character.
Yeah. So,
but
we should get into why he killed himself, because I think this is now the other reason why the Tesla brand and Musk's name should be all over this, because Musk plays a role in influencing this person.
Right. So, I mean, with nothing else, this tells us right off the bat, before they even get into office, that there's going to be a real attempt to have it both ways.
Yeah.
With Musk, where he's going to try to act like some independent, I'm just the same old businessman Musk, billionaire, entrepreneur, inventor, haven't invented shit that you all know and love. Nobody loves him except cultists. And then also be exercising power, with Trump, which he's already doing in untold ways. So, yeah, we can't. I think that's something everybody needs to be on guard about and be vigilant about, and just not let those types of statements that are going to try and separate the two. Don't let them fly for the next 4 years.
Which the media is going to do, by the way.
They're going to do they're already doing it.
Yeah.
Well, so let's see. Well, first let me finish saying what all Musk said here. Both he and Las Vegas officials, and I believe this based on the construction of the piece of shit, that in this instance it was fortunately built, that it contained much of the impact and pushed most of the explosion upward because of the fucking steel box that it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's cool. That might have actually genuinely saved some lives, or at least saved some more previous injuries.
Which is interesting because the steel body causes more injuries normally in a collision situation. The reason your bumper falls apart so easily if you get in an accident is because that's a feature. By breaking apart, it's dispersing the kinetic energy. The Cybertruck doesn't do that. It just transfers the energy. It contains it within the vehicle. And so in this case, it makes a terrible car bomb, I guess. Which is good. That's something.
So the fact that this was a Cybertruck really limited the damage that occurred inside the valet, because it had most of the blast go up through the truck and out. Las Vegas Metro Police Sheriff Musk noted the evil knuckleheads picked the wrong vehicle for a terrorist attack. Cybertruck actually contained the explosion and directed the blast upward. Not even the glass doors of the lobby were broken, which is kind of impressive, actually. I mean, it's pretty fucking close, man. I gotta say, I would have expected those glass doors to blow out. Yeah. So, but also at the same time, it was caused by very large fireworks. It's not like this was like, plastique or some shit. So, and then the evil knuckleheads, you see what's on my mind. Wolverine on the mind. The evil knuckleheads he's talking about is really just one knucklehead, it seems like, as far as we know. And what's he about? Anybody got any info on that? Does anybody want to talk about that, or should I find it?
Levelsberger?
Yeah.
Well, there's conflicting stories. There's an alleged email that he allegedly sent to a third party that the FBI and the Las Vegas police think came from him, but there are questions about it because the person who went public with it has a history of lying and making stories up. And then there's a collection of so-called mini festos that he had on his phone that are far more unhinged than the contents of the email. So
this is
and apparently he was on a reality show about like 10 years ago, I think, on the History Channel where they would team up different teams of soldiers from different militaries around the world and do mock combats and stuff to see who was the toughest soldier.
Sure.
Yeah. Did he win?
I don't remember if he won or not. His team may have won. I don't know, but I just recently found this out about him. So he has some media history before this. He was a minor celebrity, or reality TV celebrity.
Is the stuff on his phone, is that is verified?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The stuff on his phone is like all the stuff about masculinity and
this is the stuff you might not be easy to see, like in mainstream media right now, because there's not a lot of people that are just making this part of the story. If somebody wants to do any kind of quick, Googling and see how many outlets are actually talking about this stuff, that would be helpful. But
yeah, come on.
So this is from the Talking Points memo on the 4th. So yesterday. Yeah. Over the last 4 days, a bizarre Cybertruck fire outside a Trump hotel in Las Vegas has run from comical interlude to possible terrorist incident to tragic suicide of another veteran of America's forever wars. Each of these descriptions still captures an important part of the story. And this is by Josh Marshall. I say as I then read on, and he mentions himself. As I noted yesterday, while Matthew Levelsberger appears to have had a series of combustible and likely abusive relationships going back many years, he also appears to have suffered from PTSD and possibly a traumatic brain injury since returning from a tour of duty in 2019. Then there's some stuff about spousal abuse that's not confirmed, so I'm not going to. But at least for the moment, there are pretty striking lack of attention to the political motives he expressed in at least 2 documents, or what I guess we might call manifestos that investigators found on his phone. So these documents denounce Democrats and demand they be culled from Washington by violence if necessary, and express the hope that his own death will serve as a kind of bell clap for a national rebirth of masculinity under the leadership of Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Bobby Kennedy Jr. Most headlines I've seen report only that he warned of a national decline and bore no ill will toward Trump, in the words of one of the investigators. That gloss on Donald Trump is, shall we say, a bit of an understatement, as you can see in these excerpts. So I'm going to pull this up on screen so you guys can see the words. Military and vets move on DC starting now. Militias facilitate and augment this activity. Occupy every major road along Fed buildings and the campus of Fed buildings by the hundreds of thousands. Lock the highways down with semis right after everybody gets in. Hold until the purge is complete. Try peaceful means first, but be prepared to fight to get the Dems out of the Fed government and military by any means necessary. They all must go, and a hard reset must occur for our country to avoid collapse. We must end the war in Ukraine with negotiated settlement. It is the only way. Focus on strength and winning. Masculinity is good, and men must be leaders. Strength is a deterrent, and fear is the product. We can go ahead and pause there. So, this sounds like the kind of person that you get when you feed them, right-wing fucking garbage content for years.
Yeah. And I was going to say, sorry, I almost interrupted you there, but he said a rebirth of masculinity under Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Robert Kennedy Jr., 3 of the least masculine people I am aware of. This 3 of the whiniest little bitches I have ever seen in media ever.
Yeah, that's how you know this shit's a cult, man. And then these people are deranged because they actually think Donald Trump is masculine and like a epitome of manliness or whatever.
I would hazard a guess that I could be more masculine and do more traditionally masculine things than any of those 3.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean, you know what? I would say that I know that Kennedy spent some pretty hard years, and that he might have as a Kennedy, they probably went out as kids and did things like chopped wood, and hunted. So he's probably got slightly more experience, doing that kind of stuff than the other guys. But yeah.
I just find it weird because I'm not big on masculinity. I don't really give a shit about gender roles. But when I think of traditionally masculine people, Donald Trump and Elon Musk in particular are not part of that template. They do not embody any traditionally masculine traits I'm aware of, except maybe being an asshole, which
that's the one.
I don't think that should be gendered. There's plenty of assholes of every gender, but
it's true.
They just don't fit. They don't fit the mold. And so when people talk about them being like alphas or sigmas or whatever, I don't get it. Like,
first of all, those things that doesn't exist. That framing
I know
of people, I know, but I mean, reminding everyone else that the guy that first theorized this, that was studying wolf packs years ago, decades ago, he theorized this, and then later on said that he was wrong and that he can't possibly account for the myriad different, nuanced ways that creatures interact and stuff like that.
So what's interesting about that whole thing, just to fill people in who don't know, is that the original study was based on observing wolves in captivity, where the amount of food and resources and area they had to exist in was finite. And they were under the constant awareness of their observation, because wolves are fucking smart. They know there are people out there that are just kind of watching them. And wild animals don't like that very much. Normally, if you see another animal in the wild, they're going to look at you and try and figure out what you're doing and either flee, hide, or engage.
Well, I mean, also there's been observed in wolves and other animals that, like, there may be one that is the one that like gets to mate with most of the females, and like they will bring more food to that one or something. But then there's been observed, I don't remember what it was, animals I was reading this about, but like another male aside from that one would be the one to go with the pups or whatever and teach them how to hunt and play and stuff like that. And it's like completely different males.
In wolves specifically, most wolf packs are just a mated pair and their children.
And their cubs,
That's what they are. And then so like all of the males in the pack who are not the father are just not all. I mean, they do adopt some, but most of the males in a wolf pack who are not the father are the children of that father. And humans arbitrarily assigned him as the father, as the alpha.
And let's not even talk about the gay wolves, because it gets real, different there. But we respect that. We appreciate them.
Well, speaking of that, when we talk about primates, which we are as humans, all primates are social animals that live in collective social environments.
Except for humans, less and less as time goes on.
But even then, we are like, we crave social interaction, even as our societal infrastructure tries to isolate us.
Sure. Very, very well said. So let's continue on. Maybe make some good points after that. Stop obsessing over diversity. We are all diverse, and DEI is a cancer. Oh my God. Thankfully, we rejected the DEI candidate and we'll have a real president instead of Weekend at Bernie's. Does he know who was running for president? Because I don't think that literally he knows who was running for president. I mean, I get that's a funny joke if it was actually Biden, but it
was actually Biden, right? But also, Trump is not much younger than Biden, and
in fact, he is now literally the oldest person to ever be elected president.
I mean, honestly, Trump does come off. You put the guys side by side. Yeah, Trump comes off like he's more with it and he's got more energy and stuff like that. But I would not be at all surprised if he fucking bites it before Biden does.
Well, I think we've heard out of both, insider reports out of both his staff the first time around and current people around him that he is not mentally well.
Right.
And so he is going to be a seat-warming president. He's not going to make any...
Well, I mean, that's why the name of the stream is President Musk. I mean, it's like, it's a joke and people are saying it to kind of get to Trump, and apparently it's kind of working. But at the same time, I don't know, until something changes.
Right. Well, and I think if there's going to be a change in that, it's going to be this fight over H-1B visas.
Yeah. Because, well, like we said before, are the technocrats going to win or are the Nazis going to win? Well,
right, because it's one of those things where the Nazis hold all the actual offices. The technocrats hold all the White House positions.
But they hold the purse strings.
Right.
So we really are seeing kind of a battle between like fascism and like hyper capitalism, late stage capitalism, or oligarchy, I guess.
Two different flavors of fascism.
True.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, two necessary
One
components.
is more accelerationist than the other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So last one. It gets kind of poetic here. Consider this last sunset of 24 and my actions the end of our sickness and a new chapter of health for our people. Rally around the Trump, Musk, Kennedy, and ride this wave to the highest hegemony for all Americans. We are second to no one. Beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Chapter of health. So you start a new chapter of health with a bullet through your fucking brain and then some fireworks explosions. Cool.
Right. I think in one of his other missives, he said, "This is not a terrorist attack; it's a wake-up call."
Right. Yeah.
Right.
As he said, every terrorist ever.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this was literally a terrorist attack. It did what it was designed to do. What terrorism is designed to do, which is to frighten a civilian population into and politicians into changing the politics of that population.
Right.
So this writer uses a phrase that I think is pretty good, useful. I should note they capture what we might call the ideologically polyglot, or what appears to many of us as ideologically polyglot, thinking of many of these people. He also rails against the 1%, excessive screen time for kids, wars with no clear strategic purpose, obesity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This says it is important to note he can be both a violent extremist and a victim of PTSD, as we talk about on this channel plenty of times.
Yep.
Hurt people. And this is, I mean, thankfully he only hurt 7 people and killed himself, but it could have been worse. And then, of course, there's the New Orleans incident, which was far worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ideologically polyglot is an interesting phrase because we should just boil it down to what it actually is: alienation.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean that is what it is. You're right, but I mean, like, how can we describe that in a way that like it's a grab bag? It's like a grab bag of feel good politics. I think
polyglot implies to me a level of understanding that I think that this person lacked, though.
Yeah.
Is because
superficial comfort politics from a grab bag essentially is what it is. It's like you're the stuff that not necessarily comforts you in a traditional sense, but makes you feel like you understand, and that in a way comforts you.
Yeah, but I would prefer the phrase ideologically incoherent.
Yes,
sure.
Because,
but I mean, yeah. But what I'm trying to get to, I guess, is the grab bag act of it, of like that it does. There is a choosing the things that kind of stick out to the individual's mind. And this is why we see so many people with, we're starting to realize it more and more that there's people that seem this, but they're actually a little bit more this, or they've got mixed up politics, right? Incoherent. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like the reason that I feel like some of these people, especially people that are mentally unwell and they're not, really looking past the surface of things, and they're just, it's comforting in a strange way to these people to feel like, oh, it's the fucking, it's the lack of masculinity. People aren't masculine enough. I'm masculine enough. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel like I'm not part of the problem. It's these other people that aren't masculine that are the problem. But then that may in the moment be somewhat comforting to him. But then over time, and whenever you start to see this problem, quote unquote problem everywhere, and you come to see it as like being the underlying issue behind everything, it becomes much more stressful. It becomes much more of a fucking, anxious feeling, I imagine, over time.
Can we pull back up the list that they had of things he was concerned about? Because I want to circle back to that.
And I'll be right back.
Sure. I was going to ask you to highlight them, but that's fine. We'll make do. So like he rails against the 1%, but the people he lists as his ideological heroes, Trump, Musk, and RFK Jr. are the 1%.
Yep.
Like a Kennedy, Trump, generational wealth. He's been president before already once. He's doing it again. Musk is the richest asshole in the world. Like, these are not salt of the earth people. Not a one of them is.
Mm-hmm. They're not just the 1%. They are the 0.01%.
0.01%. Yeah.
Especially Musk, who's now worth, I think, almost $500 billion. He is the richest person who has ever lived.
Right. Like when you understand how much money that is, like I can't explain it to you in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
It is a historically incomprehensible amount of money. Now then the excessive screen time for kids. Well, it's funny because the issue there, and I think if this person were alive, or people who complain about this a lot would agree with me, is that parents don't have enough time. They work too much. And kids don't have the educational resources provided to them. And so where else do they go but the screen? That's a thing you could solve with education money and a better education system and better access to childcare. And I don't know, providing universal basic income so parents who didn't want to work and wanted to raise their kids could just do that.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Sorry.
This is what happens. Laying aside the man's mental illness, which was obviously a big contributing factor.
It's a big contributing factor.
This grab bag of grievances is what happens when somebody is apolitical and yet politically alienated.
Yes.
They choose not to have an ideology, and so they have no way of arranging or analyzing their grievances and putting them in a context. So everything becomes a mysterious affliction being imposed upon you by shadowy elites.
And there is a whole industry that exists to tell apolitical people who's responsible.
Yeah.
Well, and then and there's so many quote unquote apolitical people because what was the common refrain for decades? I don't know how long it's been a thing, but like don't discuss politics and religion at the dinner table, and and mixed company and stuff like that. And for a long time, people just abided by that. It seemed like
they here's the thing is they didn't. Because everyone has, we stereotypically call him an uncle. But everyone has that family member who will just go off on that rant.
Yeah, you're right. The thing that people weren't thinking about was that the uncle's brother, your dad, or the other uncle or whatever were sitting there agreeing with him, even though they weren't saying anything. Yeah.
Is that it was the issue was it was wrong to challenge that person. That don't discuss it was meant don't.
Because then it might come out that we just hate black people or whatever, and we don't want to have to say that out loud.
Yeah, and I want to clarify when I use the word politics in this context, I'm not talking about Democrat versus Republican.
Right.
I'm talking about an interrogation of who has power in a society and why do they have it? What systems enable them to have that power and keep it? That's what politics is. It's not, do you prefer Democrats or do you prefer liberals over conservatives? It's who has power over you. Right. And when you lack a lens of analysis, I'm not going to say what my favorite one is, but when you lack a lens of analysis of that problem, then you're never going to figure out the problem.
Right.
And so the
one thing I would add to that,
this guy did.
The one thing I would add to that is not only is it a framework of understanding who has power over you and that's what politics is, but also what they do with that power over you.
Mm-hmm.
And the shit, I was going to say something and then just fucking completely dropped out of my brain.
I hate when that happens.
I don't know. Yeah. So like, and that's why like things like what I started my channel to talk about and ended up talking about a lot over 5 years is these chuds and stuff like that. It's like it's more than just that. Most of you watching know that by now. That's content exists for the purpose of trying to, because essentially, post, I guess we could say during and then post Obama, people started becoming like more people started looking to understand politics better. the average person started trying to understand things better. And you had the powers that be, I suppose you could say, or different entities, as conservative think tanks and shit like that, started realizing that, and that, oh shit, if all these people start looking into understanding politics and they come at it from a pragmatic, rational, historical lens, they're going to see that we're pretty evil. You know what I mean? And so they started dumping money into all these projects and campaigns and candidates and stuff like that to essentially dissuade people from thinking towards the left, and instead to fill their brains with garbage. Whether it's specifically Republican politics or just garbage conspiracy theories and bigotry and woke DEI bullshit. That's what that shit all exists for, is to distract from people from actually thinking with a rational lens.
Right. Also, I think, to say, as much as I generally say, like, we need to educate on what the right wing does, we also need to talk about what the liberal establishment has done, which is not create an educational ecosystem. Now, they don't have the money to create that ecosystem, but the liberal establishment saw themselves as benefiting from political ignorance, because that establishment doesn't want to push people further to the left, because they're afraid of what they see as left-wing radicals as being bad for PR, because our media is part of our capitalist state and therefore exists to oppose economic changes.
Oh, yeah, I think the liberal establishment is beholden to the same class of donors as the Republican establishment.
Right. Yep.
And they're both capitalists. So
I think
they're interested in
started seeing that secularism was on the rise, and they kind of took that partly as like, well, that's going to be in our favor. You know what I mean? Like,
right, because if you're a rational actor, that would make sense. But
see, I think they misread that. I think they misread that. It's not secularism that's on the rise. It's disengagement from traditional established religion. That doesn't mean that people are thinking more rationally or more empirically, or that they don't believe in religious ideas anymore. It just means they're cynical about institutions.
Also,
and the reason that conspiracy theories flourish in that environment is it appeals to the same parts of the human brain that organized religion does, but it's less organized.
Right. The other thing is that the rise of secularism in America corresponds directly to a rise in Islamophobia.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of secular people who identify as secular, who are secular not because they have a problem with the establishment of religion. They have a problem with Islam, and they are fine with the misdeeds of other religions, particularly.
Well, that actually can provide a nice little turning point here in the conversation. First, I wanted to say that the exceptions don't prove the rule, or don't prove anything. Those are exceptions.
So those are exceptions, and they are still donor sponsored, and like
PBS is highly corporatized and just like it's not.
And also nobody watches them. That's the thing. Like the NPR, CNN, MSNBC, what we call the legacy media, are not watched by a majority of Americans anymore. Most Americans get their news from the internet, from social media, from podcasts, TikTok, that kind of stuff.
I think NPR is still, relatively NPR. What I can tell. PBS though, there's a video by. Can I talk? There's a video by Entertain the Elk he's done a lot of videos about like the day that whatever show died. You know what I mean? Like, so Friends or The Office or whatever it is, and he'll does pretty great analysis on when he thinks like these shows kind of just, this is where it was really died, even though it kept on going, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a fantastic one on Sesame Street, and it goes really in depth on the history of Sesame Street, how it used to be, how it kind of evolved, and then the puppet that killed it all. And like it's
was it Elmo? Was it Elmo?
It was Elmo, yeah. It's absolutely
fucking Elmo.
Yeah, because every other like he's the first one that's kind of dumb. And like every other before that there was like a specific purpose to each puppet and stuff. Anyway, you should just watch it. I highly recommend that video if you haven't seen it. It gets really depressing at the end whenever you see how CGI everything has become and like how little puppetry is actually done. And yeah, it's pretty bad. But
that sucks.
Anyway, yeah. See, Lucifer says you have to bear in mind the stories you see are always just the ones they think will get eyeballs. Yeah.
I mean, it's a business, right?
I mean, that's why, like, honestly, you will usually see me sharing stuff from, especially if it's like something that's kind of new event, like, oh, something's popping off. I'm going to go to AP.
That's fair.
Just the Associated Press, just because I don't know of, you know, they're generally the front line of things, and they're going to do their best to keep things as limited to facts that they have on hand and, you know, been verified and stuff like that. And
there's a certain benefit to, especially early on, to that level of minimalist reporting that the AP does.
Yeah.
I
mean,
Reuters is still pretty good.
Reuters, yeah.
Agence Presse France, I think it's called. It's pretty good. Al Jazeera is still pretty good.
Al Jazeera is pretty good.
You know, but again, the problem is where people are turning to for news, and it's not to Al Jazeera, Reuters, AP. Most people, at least in the United States, get what they call news from their friends or people they consider their friends, whether it's a parasocial or a social relationship. So Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok, YouTube. This is where people are podcasts. This is where people are getting their information diet from. And the Democratic establishment has no beachhead really in any of those. And that's a big part of the problem.
So I want to test this, McLeod, because
democracy.
To bring this up in the same conversation as what we were talking about is kind of interesting to me. So at least right here, you've got a bunch of editorials right on the front page, which I'm not saying that those other ones don't or might not, but like this seems to be the priority here. Let's see. Go to like headlines. Yeah, you know, these might just be generally kind of let's go to this one. Come with this. Biden awards presidential citizens medal to Republican. Oh God, she got one too. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is just a basic little headline and blurb about the facts. That's fair.
I know in the past, Democracy Now! Has fallen off. Well, rather ended up on my shit list because there was a fair bit of sensationalist reporting they would engage on during the Trump administration that was just unhelpfully unverifiable. I don't know how true that is 4 years removed, but especially during COVID, I found them to be an unreliable source.
Okay. Well, I mean, at least this headline page they have here, you know, just kind of scanning it, it does look like they're just kind of giving you the bare bones basics for each topic.
And whether we judge a news outlet to be good is kind of relative, right? Because I mean, I like Democracy Now! Because I'm a leftist, but that doesn't mean that they're reliable. They just tell me what I want to hear. They tell me things that verify my biases. And sometimes my biases are right. So I generally like them. But it's important to remember that they are engaged in clickbait.
Yeah. Like, I think that there's a benefit to finding a right-wing news source that you trust to not be sensationalist. Like for me, for the longest time, that was the Wall Street Journal. Now it's probably Forbes.
Ground News is what you're talking about. It's got some inherent flaws to it that I was looking into a while back. Particularly that in order to get the full benefit of it, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And the people that like, and it's also just kind of mostly made for left-leaning people, I think, because right-leaning people generally aren't going to be too interested in, unless they're knowing propagandists, they might want to see what's going on, you know, on the other side of things.
Yeah.
But you know, so there's some inherent flaws there too. But it's the intention.
It's not a bad resource, but it is a resource that has its limitations because there's no perfect resource.
Yeah, we got to be aware of our biases for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard because we want to know as much as we can. We want to understand as much as we can. One thing I'll say about that helped me was when I started trusting my own analytical skills a little bit more a few years ago. Whenever I stopped going, because my probably 6-7 years ago, my habit would be something comes up in the news. I don't really know the details of what's going on, but I recognize this is important and I should learn about it. And so I'd read the first, like AP or whatever, and then I'll go, okay, now I'm going to find an editorial about it. And I would read maybe an editorial or two, and I would kind of onboard what seemed to agree with my biases or what seemed to make the most sense from there. And then over time, I realized that I can kind of analyze and come to a lot of these conclusions myself. If as long as I'm aware of as much of the information that's factored into this as possible. Basically what I'm saying is trust your judgment a little bit more than you might default to. If you feel like you got good judgment on these things, trust that shit, because otherwise you might just be kind of onboarding, editorializing that maybe it doesn't have the same value system as you. You know what I mean? Might be written from somebody that doesn't value the same things as you or whatever. But anyway.
Yeah. The thing that helped me, I think, was that my version of that, and also fighting the temptation to think that I need to have an absolutely unique hot take on the issue at hand. Most of my opinions are, like any human, gained from other humans.
Right.
And I think a lot of online outrage culture is driven by the need for everybody to feel like their point of view is unique and wise and smarter than the crowd.
It is
when we're all just recycling opinions we've
right.
gotten from multiple different sources anyway. We're synthesizing information we've gotten from various sources and filtering it through our own value system.
Everybody wants to have that hot take. You know, if you're not we can kind of without even realizing it, we'll recognize that, or we'll see that a post with a certain take is getting lots of play. And you know, I don't like to think that I do that really anymore, but I'm sure at one point I did more often, where I would kind of subconsciously just try to recreate that to some degree.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, oh, I know that's going to get lots of likes or updates or whatever, but yeah.
I think it's okay for people to understand that they are, especially in these online public forums where everyone can spout off uncontrollably. It's okay to just read. It's okay to just be a voice in the choir. Because sometimes, especially for a company that is conscious of their perception by the public, just adding a yeah, fuck you, buddy post to a news article, that's all it takes sometimes. You don't need to have the hottest take, and you don't have to necessarily have a unique one. You don't have to feel special. You already are, and you know that. But we're all human still, and we all have the same categories of flaws.
Well, so we did mention the Islamophobia.
Yep. So we should come back to that.
So first, I want to start off by reminding everybody that the vast majority of domestic terror attacks that have taken place in the last 20 years have been done by right-wing American homegrown extremists.
Yep.
However, sometimes some of the few crazy Islamic, the guys that use Islam as their basis for being murderous. Yeah, this guy happened. I haven't even really looked too much into this, to be honest. So, the suspect in the deadly New Year's truck ramming attack in New Orleans made 2 previous trips to the city in October and November, apparently scouting the best location to carry out his rampage, even using a pair of Meta smart glasses. Good job, fucking Zuckerberg.
Good
Once
work.
again, just getting right in there.
Happy New Year's, everyone.
Yeah. Glasses to record video of a bicycle ride through the French Quarter. So wow.
He planned this out, yeah.
He planned it, yeah. I think it's important for some framing here to point out that Islamic terrorists are also right-wingers.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are to Islam what Christian nationalism is to Christianity.
It's like Chuds think they're like, well, because they're anti-America and America's conservative and patriot. If you're anti that, then you're on the left.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really dumb.
The conflict in the Middle East between Iran and Israel is also a right-wing on right-wing conflict.
Yeah.
And same with Hamas and several other terrorist organizations that operate in and around Israel. That is a right wing on right wing war.
Right. Both of which are downstream of a colonialist enterprise adopted by the United States from Great Britain and the Ottomans.
Right.
Whoa. So, special agent in charge of the of the FBI's New Orleans field office name is Lionel Mithril.
Shut the fuck up.
No.
What?
Shut the fuck up. Lionel Mithril. Oh my God.
Wow.
I want to meet his parents and shake their hands.
He's indestructible.
And light too. Like, you wouldn't, if he's on top of you wouldn't even notice.
Right. He's a really, really just like light on his feet guy, but also you can't scratch him. Anyway,
I wonder if he glows in the dark when orcs are nearby.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
That would be really handy as an FBI investigator. I mean,
well, would it though? Because if you're trying to like snoop on some orcs and you just light up like a Christmas tree, right? It's
right.
like, oh fuck, there he is.
Good
thing he's made a mithril, so you can't hurt him. Oh God.
Okay, so yeah. Anyway, did not record. Okay, he didn't even record the attack or attempt to live stream it. Apparently, so I guess in a weird way we can be thankful for that because that's not floating around the internet.
Terrorist failed.
Well, there is plenty of video around where you can see it from the outside, but at least 14 people were killed and dozens injured in the attack, which occurred over a 3-block stretch of Bourbon Street in New Orleans' bustling French Quarter. If you've ever been to the French Quarter, Bourbon Street, just on a regular fucking night, it is chaos.
A zoo.
I cannot imagine. Would not want to go there on New Year's Eve.
No, I'm good, thank you.
I've been there on New Year's Eve, and you can barely move.
I was gonna say it's got to be wall to wall.
This was I think this was in the morning, wasn't it? It was like
3 a.m.
New Year's Day in the morning. Yeah.
Which I still imagine was pretty fucking packed anyway. Like,
yeah.
They're still out being crazy. Yeah. So he's a Texas resident who FBI officials proclaimed his support for the terrorist group. Proclaimed his support for ISIS in social media posts ahead of the attack. Was killed in gunfire exchanged with New Orleans police. So he said the investigation has uncovered 2 trips that he made, as we mentioned. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of Joshua Jackson, the special agent in charge of the bureau. I wonder what happened to him.
What?
So, yeah, the actor?
Seriously?
No. There's Joshua Jackson is the name of the special agent in charge of the
Joshua Jackson and Lionel Mithril.
The writers have really just run out.
I think the New Orleans field office is where the FBI sends all of its nerds.
They're like, wasn't the name of that guy on that Dawson's Creek show? You mean the one on Fringe? Yeah, Fringe. Yeah.
So one thing that's
if they have an agent Lestat, then we've got a trifecta here.
Yeah, we really got it all. So to bring it back to the
Commissioner Hellboy said blah blah blah.
All right. So when this first happened, the right-wing ecosystem immediately tried to pin this on the attacker being a immigrant. And they, in the same way they have with school shootings, saying that the shooter is transgender. And then they quickly shut the fuck up and delete tweets and stuff whenever it comes out that was not the case. And this guy is... Mm-hmm. Not only an American, he's from Texas, and he was a veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike the Las Vegas bomber, he was not active duty. He had been discharged. I don't know that we have his discharge status yet.
So I got right here what we know. Army veteran, U.S. born citizen who lived in Houston. His half brother called the news shocking. Now, this is completely outside his character. Well, when was the last time you talked to your brother, though?
I mean, that seems like a lot of like that's sort of a guy does a terrorist attack or a school shooting or whatever, and everyone's surprised. Is
well, I mean, he did talk about how America was an evil empire and stuff like that, but I just still didn't see this coming. Like,
right, yeah, and I guess like it's hard, like you know, I think we all know people who complain about the state of America and even say things that might be a little extreme. But I think a lot of us would be shocked if one of our number was to go and do a thing based on that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Most people,
Everybody except Bad
especially-
Enchilada. Bad Empanada. He'd be the one that I'd be like, yep, I saw that.
That guy did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for most people, if you talk to their relatives and loved ones are going to say, "Oh, yeah, he's a great guy. I can't believe he would do something this horrible," because
Right.
that's just your family instinct, you know.
Well,
But there's
and cynically, like if you agreed with that guy and you knew what he was saying, of course I never saw it coming. But there's just some level of self-preservation there too.
So this guy described his brother as one of the nicest guys he'd ever meet. Would not hurt a fly. Well, I mean, maybe not, but he hurt
For a lot of people, yeah, those are different things.
He's the youngest of 4 brothers in the family, and his older brother, who they called Sham, was the eldest.
This is what I think it was Hannah Arendt described as the banality of evil. That most people who do horrible things and war crimes like this are just normal.
Yeah.
They look, you know, you can't spot them. They're not like raving lunatics who walk around screaming crazy things. They're,
just
I mean, lone wolf terrorism is a little bit of an exception to this, but most people in history, she was writing about Nazi Germany, but this applies to like any oppressive system. Most people who do horrible things like schedule the killings at a death camp are just normal office worker people who are pushing papers and would be deemed mentally healthy by a therapist because they're able to do their job.
Right.
They don't see their job as killing people. They see their job as I'm a stenographer or I'm a file clerk, but what they're doing facilitates the mass murder of people. So most people who can make themselves a mass murderer are just normal up until the moment they get caught doing it.
Yeah.
So
which I
there were
think
5
says something
videos
about our
posted.
understanding of normal.
5 videos posted on his Facebook account. In the first video, he explains that he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned that the news headlines would not focus on the war between the believers and the disbelievers.
So is he a Muslim?
He is a Muslim. He is a.
Okay.
I was just looking it up on Wikipedia, so I haven't quite checked all the sourcing there. But he was a adult convert to Islam. He was honorably discharged at the rank of staff sergeant in 2015, remaining in the reserves until 2020. He did serve a tour in Afghanistan.
Oh my God. Oh, sorry. Just saw something. I'll have to tell you guys, not on stream.
Okie dokie.
So he had a checkered military history, punctuated by multiple divorces and financial difficulty, according to court records reviewed by ABC News. He was born in Texas, spent a decade working in the U.S. military before becoming a realtor in the Houston area. His years in the military were spent working as a human resources and IT specialist.
It's always the realtors, man.
There's a lot of How many realtors were at J6? It was a lot of those sorts of people. A lot of realtors, a lot of landlords.
Mm-hmm. Realtors and used car or car dealership owners are 2 of the biggest lobbying groups in the country. They're fucking up the entire system.
Yep.
Radicalizing a ton of people.
Clearly.
I love how they have the truck was rented through a Turo app it's a car sharing company.
Both of them did.
They both used it.
Oh.
They both used it independently. Like that was one of those things that had people think that there might be a connection between the two, because one of the first things that was verified was that both of these vehicles were rented from the same app.
I love that they have to put out these things. We remain committed to maintaining the highest standards in risk management thanks to our world-class trust and safety technology and teams that include experienced former law enforcement professionals, a Turo spokesperson said in a statement. Like they have to put these statements out. Anyway, that seems to be, at least as of a couple of days ago, all that we really had. There's probably some more stuff here, but I don't
I
know,
mean, there's
man.
not a whole lot to say, really.
Yeah.
It's a horrible tragedy, and
I wonder.
the media is mishandling it.
My question is, if I wonder if he was like in contact with any ISIS people. You know, as far as like, was there like direct grooming going on, or had there been going on, kind of thing? You know,
I don't think there would need to be.
There would, yeah.
No, but that's if you remember the was it Sarnaev or whatever, the Boston guys. There was something like that with those guys.
Yeah, there was an online environment they were in.
Yeah.
I think this guy was radicalized in part by his experience in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's what I was saying. They wouldn't need to be in direct contact anymore, right? Because I guess it depends how you define direct contact. Because I mean, online communities might count as direct contact, but the guy can convert to a radical religion and find everything he needs to know to take him down the pipeline online for free without ever meeting another human. And he had the training to do it, but thanks to his military background.
And someone who spends time in a environment impacted by Islamic conservatism and comes back and becomes a triple divorcee and has trouble holding a job, like he is. I mean, we talk about like Elon Musk being the most divorced man in America, but like that can radicalize you. Absolutely.
I think both of these guys were divorced. I think
so.
I think Livelsberger was divorced as well, and
something like that, divorced or separated or something.
Yeah, there's like some domestic violence allegations. I don't know how credible those are, and there was rumors going around that I think have since been debunked that his DNA taken from the scene did not match that of his wife's child.
Oh,
I don't know if that was verified or debunked.
Yeah,
but it is verified that he was divorced, right?
Yeah, okay, I think so.
Which is why I think partially why he fell down the radical masculinity rabbit hole, because those people target divorced dads a lot.
Yes. Let's see what we know. Just again using Wikipedia because we're just live here. So let's see. Vehicle contained an assault rifle along with 2 pistols. First wife divorced in 2018. He and his wife, he was still married, but he and his wife broke up 6 days before the explosion.
So it sounds like he was probably having marital problems. His brain was marinating in all of this masculinity red pill content online, and this was like the inciting incident for him. Yeah, that would be my theory of the case anyway.
It seems to be the case.
And Screwface Capone in the chat's pointing out a good point that over the last few years, there's been an intersection a little bit of red pill and conservative Islam. If you look at like Andrew Tate and that whole thing, I don't think he's sincere about it, but he converted to Islam. I don't know what his motive was there, but yeah. So if this guy was in that, it's obvious that Liffelsberger was in that media space quite a lot.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that a lot of men don't know there's just not easily available resources, and men are trained not to use their available resources when they're having emotional problems.
We are. Yes. Yeah.
Which, like, honestly, like if depending on who your employer is, a lot of employers, even ones that are kind of shit, will pay for a employee assistance program that will often provide things like so many free therapy sessions a year. And just like look that up in your HR guide and just like give those people a call. They don't report back to your employer. It's all confidential, and then you have access to free therapy, which is hard to get otherwise, especially if you're in a healthcare desert. It might be over the phone, but I mean, telemedicine is better than no medicine at all.
Yeah.
And just having someone to talk to, because they even have like crisis lines who will set you, unlike another crisis line, like you'll call them having an issue and they will walk you through a crisis like a suicide hotline or another crisis hotline, but then also set you up with follow-up therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So
and if you live in a state like California, I don't know how many other states have this, but a state like California that has a very robust public health system, and if you are below a certain income level, you can get free universal health care.
Yeah.
That includes mental health. Mm-hmm. You should avail yourself of that.
Yes.
And check to see if you live in a red state, you're fucked.
Probably
but if you live in a blue state, it's possible that you have access to those resources for free and don't know about it.
Mm-hmm. And like therapy is just good for you in general. It's like car maintenance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so we're going to move on and talk about some comics in a minute.
All right.
So I just wanted to mention this because this is kind of just forced adversity defined here. George Soros got the Medal of Freedom from Biden.
Dark Brandon strikes again.
I wish Dark Brandon would have been striking more often several months ago. I don't know where Dark Brandon has been for the last 6-7 months. Welcome back at the end, asshole. But
he's like, man, you got a few days left, Dark Brandon. Do something, dude. Do something really cool, please. Anyway.
Like I will say him not pardoning, but commuting all the sentences on death row, save for 3 to life without
I think
parole.
those 3 were a troll too. If you look at which 3 he left, it's that's fucking troll, man. Like
it was the Boston Marathon bomber and 2 right-wing trolls,
white nationalists. He's like, here, Trump, do something with these. You know, what are you gonna do? You know, because he knows he wants to kill people. He knows he loves killing people. And he's like, all right, so here's 2 of yours. And then also one that you would try and paint as me being soft on. No, you can kill. Which one are you going to kill? Which one? I don't know. I think it's pretty fucking funny. I mean, as funny as the death penalty can be.
Well, it's one of those things that genuinely, on top of like a trolling thing, it is good policy. We should not have the death penalty at all. Period. End of sentence. And I would go as far to say that outside of very rare circumstances, like being the Boston Marathon bomber, we should not have life in prison either.
Or we should also change what prison is.
Yes.
I mean, we have to have structures that hold people accountable and impose consequences for antisocial and destructive behavior. Obviously,
part of the episodes, I'm looking into some of these fucking Scandinavian prisons or whatever. Because they seem to be they got the right idea over there.
I watched a documentary on one where one of the guys they talked to was a murderer. Yeah, I think it was in Denmark, who was serving a life sentence in prison. But what that means in Denmark is that he can have a job outside of the institution and make money and all that stuff. But he always has to come back for the rest of his life to what is basically an apartment that he's required to live in. That's under minimal armed guard, but still armed guard. But he has like television, he has access to books, he has the internet, he has all, he just has restricted movement, and I think he has to make restitution to his victim's family.
Right.
Which is why he's allowed to work out.
That I was learning about just before Christmas, talking to my family. I didn't know I have this family member in Texas that's in prison. And he is he's making stop signs for the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Probably for like, I think it's something like, I don't know, 50 something cents or $1 something or less per hour. And that's just slavery.
Yeah.
At
the very least, we need to get rid of privately owned prisons.
Yes.
And it's a real bad problem in Texas. My dad was complaining how he couldn't, he used to want to contact this family member and stuff, and he would like he could do the collect call that was already a drain on people.
Right.
But now they have this whole system where you have to have like your all your information in a account, and then like just like you can send them text message. They can actually text from the prison now, but it's like certain amount per text.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just nickel and diming poor people left and right. It's it's fucking predatory. It's disgusting how much they changed the system without any kind of warning or whatever. They're basically just like, sorry, if you want to talk to your loved one or whatever, you got to pay this amount, and you also have to have all of your information on file. And look, we're probably going to sell that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it incentivizes the state to lock more people up, to create a pool of cheap labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole problem in a lot of states, but Texas has a real fucking problem with just the prison industrial complex is pretty. It might be the state.
There are many states in the South where slavery still exists de facto, because under the 13th Amendment, it's still legal technically to deprive someone, to enslave people as a punishment for crime.
Yeah.
So a lot of states, a lot of communities in the South have recreated basically antebellum slavery using that loophole.
But I mean, look, we're all slaves in one way or another. I'm a slave to Marvel Comics. Sorry. Here's just a quick look at what's coming, I guess, in the next year. Some of these
coming
seem like
soon to a floppy near you.
Yeah, some of these seem like they were kind of written just like I don't know, call it this. I don't like they didn't seem like much thought behind some of these. But a couple of these are already going on. The 8 Deaths of Spider-Man is already happening. One World Under Doom is about to happen. Rise of the New Champions. I've seen a bit of that. There's going to be another woke team. I'm sure the Chuds are going to have a field day with that because it does look like if you haven't seen those, some kid.
It's not quite. Yeah, it's not quite as bad as the one from a few years ago.
It's not Snowflake and Safe Space, thankfully. But I mean, honestly, I kind of wish that they would find a way to just bring them, put them in there, and just to fucking do it.
Marvel, hire me, I'll do it.
Who waits within the last egg? Which I want to believe there's going to be a Krakoan egg that's left over somewhere.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Strange of Asgard.
Strange is moving to Asgard. I think we knew about that already.
Time of Strife, but it's not written. It's not spelled with a Y. So
yeah, so it's not
is
that
that
guy.
Strife? I don't know. Dormammu hadn't learned his lesson. I guess this is Ms. Marvel, where she's going to finally get her mutant powers that are going to align with the MCU version.
Probably.
And then it seems pretty clear what that is.
Yeah. I'm a little. I hope not, because I really want those things to stay separate.
Yeah.
I like my chocolate and peanut butter separate.
I wouldn't mind them having a quick kind of like, just crossover, but I don't want it to affect the Ultimate Universe.
No. I like one character going one way and then back. Like I really
Yeah. So the false metal, thank you for I skipped over that one. That's already kind of being set up in Wolverine.
Wolverine, isn't it, with the true adamantium?
Yeah, there's some kind of entity that seems to exist within or is the original pure form of adamantium, which is gold colored, which really hates this fucking impure silver shit that Wolverine and all these other characters are bonded with. And it's been systematically just killing them and taking over their mind. Wolverine most recently. And so I imagine there's going to be some kind of reckoning with that whole thing that's been set up. It's been kind of cool because it's been like going on in the background while he's like, I don't know if you've read any Wolverine, but I love the fact that a couple of issues are dedicated to him trying to, get this Wendigo that was just a teenager, became a Wendigo. Because if you're not aware, the Wendigo happens whenever someone has to eat human flesh or someone eats human flesh or whatever, and it's a curse. But this kid had to do it because out of survival, and he's not, like Wolverine's slowly training him to not be a Wendigo. And it's like
that's cool.
Using empathy and like having to like, control his own impulse to fight the thing whenever it lashes out at him and shit like that. And I've really loved that whole approach. But
no, my bub exposure is in NYX and
is that right?
X-Men. Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So if it's just Miles, that's one thing.
That's one thing. And like that makes sense because Miles is like the original Ultimate Universe survivor that isn't a bad guy.
Yeah, and he totally turned down Maker whenever Maker was like, "Hey, let's go do our thing. He's like, fuck you, you're the maker.
You're
You
literally the maker.
Yeah. Who is the man with the hammer? That's Thor. Answer that question for you. It's got to be something else going on there.
Right.
The Ghost Fist walks. Where is Spider-Man?
I ate him.
What became of Emily White? Don't know.
Tight.
I don't know that character. It seems like a new one, maybe. The Will of Doom. Utgard Rises, which has been set up in Immortal Thor. Age of Revelation, and then Beware. Beware, the spider looks like woman. Could be warrior or something else.
Yeah.
And who would trade away immortality? XVX.
Yeah.
3K
3K Gene Bomb. And the 3K is being set up in several of the X-Men books. I think Adjectiveless X-Men, NYX, and X Factor.
I haven't read X Factor in a couple of months, but I take your word for it for sure. It's
I am not sure because I haven't read it in a while, and I feel like there's another book. I just don't remember which one it was.
Oh, the Eternal Storm. Yeah, that one's pretty obvious. It's going to be Storm being
Storm versus the Eternals.
Apparently, when I think she's going to be kind of like maybe, but it seems like she's going to be leveled up to essentially Phoenix level.
Oh goddamn!
Yeah, who knows where that's going to go? I will say that just give me all the Cable and Bishop team up.
Yes,
pump
that
right
was
in
my favorite. My favorite Fall of X book was the Children of the Atom book with those two, because they absolutely it's so much fun and they absolutely hate each other.
Yeah, they're slowly learning to appreciate each other.
They
a little bit
get
more.
along, but they hate each other. It's great. It's like coworkers.
And then this villain's kind of cool. He's something that the children created after they clapped their cheeks last time.
Yep.
Vacuna, who can go through time and eats the time stream, basically.
Which seems weird.
So he's going through and eating like important moments in history of X-Men, like where's Wolverine fighting Dark Phoenix. And yet, because he eats the time stream, things get fucked up, and you got like Ms. Marvel's there.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, and then they get a couple of glimpses of some future stuff. Here's a Warlock who is working for Revelation.
Who used to be Cypher.
He's Apocalypse's heir. This is one of the new exceptional X-Men.
Yep.
Except she's older now. Bronze. It's pretty cool.
So why in the middle of this in-universe story is there a fourth wall-breaking list of upcoming titles?
Because it's like a list of like time travel events that are going to get fucked with.
Yeah, basically this is these are milestones in the universe that I mean, it's a little bit fourth wall breaking, a little bit corny, but that's what this book, the one shot that's literally designed to kind of give you they've been doing it. It's called Timeless last year. And that one was really cool because it shows the future where Luke Cage is essentially the only hero left, and he's got Hulk's power, Iron Fist's power, Ghost Rider's power. He's just got like all these different heroes' powers, and he is Power Man is what and it's like what he goes by.
Immortal Ghost Hulk man.
And he's fighting it's pretty fucking cool. But like, it's a way to just kind of set up the next year of comics and say, here's what you can look forward to. But yeah.
So we should talk about X-Men.
Well, should we?
Okay. Yeah.
First of all, I want to talk about real quick this ending. This Spider-Man.
Oh no! Okay. It's major spoilers.
What a great
red
book.
alert spoilers.
I was just like, man, this is. I honestly was convinced that nothing was going to happen in this book. I was like, because it's literally just a Christmas party, and it's like the dynamics between MJ and her sister, and then like, Uncle Ben doesn't want to mac on MJ's mom, but Jonah does, and like, it's just like a family thing happening, and then every once in a while, Gwen Stacy's calling. I'll let it go to voicemail.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that Peter doesn't say anything.
Yeah, I honestly didn't notice it until that last thing. I was like, oh wait, he didn't say a goddamn thing this whole issue. But But yeah, so it's everybody. Peter's here. He gives her a look here, like, give her a look.
Yeah.
She gives him a kiss. You're the best. He doesn't say shit though.
No.
Spoiler alert. Oh, they make up. Sisters do, and that's nice. And then, yeah, she goes out on the outside to talk to him about some Spider-Man business, and realizes, oh wait, you're not Peter.
That is not Peter. Just the fucking robot eyes.
Merry Christmas. I was like, yes.
So in Ultimate Spider-Man, his suit is made of this nanotechnology that Harry Osborn, well, rather Otto Octavius upgrades his and Harry's suits to have like an AI engram based on a person. Harry's is based on his dead father, Norman Osborn. In Spider-Man, bases his on himself.
So it seems to have come to life?
Yeah.
Or is it working for him or against him? It's unclear.
But
it
I
has
think,
anybody.
yeah. The black and white text is very, because we've seen the black and white text from the suit talking before, where it's the inverted colors, and that's like, oh god, it's Venom. His suit is already Venom.
Well, but then this looks like, that makes sense, because this looks like it's kind of doing a Kraven's Last Hunt thing.
A little bit, yeah.
Because if you remember, the suit does save his ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, that's enough of that. I just thought it was cool. This new Venom was kind of cool. Unclear who that is so far. It's kind of a neat mystery. What do we want to talk about? X-Men?
You had some
Superman.
Yeah, let's talk Absolute Superman. So
All right.
Bob can be involved.
First of all, good cover.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. I love the covers on this have been fantastic every time.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is
all Krypton stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything on Earth really at this point.
Nothing happens on Earth until the last page.
And this is really surprising and kind of neat, is that to learn that on Krypton, Cal was like, he's not as athletic, he's not as academic as all the other kids.
It's interesting because he is smarter than everyone else.
Well, I said academic for reasons, because academic is defined by what society defines it as, right? So he's not.
Yeah.
He does.
He's smart, but he's not using the generative AI that they want him to use to write things.
Right. He just
He's
writes.
actually doing his own writing. Yeah.
And just like the hubris of that, the more it goes on, the more the story goes on. I'm thinking about it, it's like, God damn, dude, like the hubris of being like, what are you doing thinking of new things yourself when everything's already been thought?
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Yeah, it's really interesting because there's this point in the book where just this death of 1,000 cuts is just like because you know what's coming. We all know what's coming, and now as the book goes on, I'm like, I fucking hate these people. These people have it coming.
He is like
Spock. He is kind of like Spock, yeah, where he's a little bit different.
What the fuck is this thing? And I hope it came to Earth too.
I hope so too, but probably given what we saw happen to the animals on Krypton, probably not.
Little winged rabbit thing. I don't know.
It's adorable. I want one.
I guess we can be lucky that if Crypto did make it. So we'll see. He had to. I mean, with the movie coming out, they got to have Crypto in this.
They got to have Crypto.
He better have made it. I hate it when the story kills the dog.
Yeah, don't kill the dog.
As lame as this is, it's also kind of cool. The only two friends he had in the world were his mom and dad.
I like that they're so close, though.
It is. It's hard for me to grasp it because that was not my experience. But I hope that I could say that that about my kids. So
notice how this panel was Crypto erasure. He's got 3 friends with him right there.
Maybe he just doesn't like his dad much. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. We don't know that he's erasing Crypto specifically.
Specifically,
but
one of them, yeah. Well, his mom goes hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His mom goes hard, and I went hard. As I said in the thumbnail, when we were supposed to talk about this, but we were fortunate enough to have a couple of artists on the stream the other night.
Yeah.
Kal-El's mom has got it going on.
Oh yeah, she does.
That's cool right there.
I love how it gives Fortress of Solitaire vibes.
Yeah. And this look between them, because they got to tell him they're just not ready to.
Yeah.
Look, this is great. This is a great. So she said you've been refusing to utilize the Science League's Luminarium for your reports, that instead you're writing them yourself. Cal, do you understand that when you do that, you're challenging 3,000 years of Kryptonian tradition? I know I can't help it. My words make me happy. Theirs are just words. Well, it's affecting your grades and getting you into trouble at school. And I and your mother and I, we've talked about this a lot. And when it comes right down to it, we really just have one thing to say to you, Cal. Keep it up.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good parents.
So, like, I think one thing that this book, and Batman does, absolute Batman does a little bit too. But every time we've seen Krypton and his parents and him interact, the Absolute Universe is supposed to be this dark mirror of the normal DC universe, influenced by Darkseid. But that makes these wholesome moments just shine all the brighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it really, like, in some way, like, it makes Superman a legacy character to his father. Like, he is carrying on the traditions of his parents and his family. And I really like that.
In a way, it does seem like this would be less dark because, like, you know, like, oh, he's got these wholesome moments he didn't get with his parents in the original continuity, but he also didn't have the trauma of literally losing them.
Yeah.
He was just, you know, he never knew his parents in the original. So,
yeah, which to me was always one of the weakest parts of his backstory to me. Like, when you're an infant and your parents die, you don't really know.
Sure.
So,
well, I mean, they've never really made it a big deal to make him traumatized by losing his parents. It was always just more the alienation from his culture and planet that was defining him, more than just like, oh, my parents, you know.
Yeah.
Well, and that his parents couldn't teach him anything.
Right.
That, like, he had these third-party cold dead sources, and his parents loved him, but it was never the same as this.
You have to chase your passion,
and I like
wherever it leads you.
I like that this is also setting up his future as a reporter on Earth.
Yes.
Which, you know, which I don't think he's adopted yet in this story, but he's obviously going to.
Well, I mean, he does the first act of journalism in this story, in this issue.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. Dad's like, I can't take it. Anyway, so Dad goes to work and finds this green shit. And then he goes on his own little merry adventure and finds that, the cute little winged bunnies are melting.
Out. Yep. At least he's smart enough. I think it's on the next page where he gives Crypto a mask.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
Just like, wait for, you know, preventative equipment. Get that PPE going.
And I think it's awesome that they make masks for dogs on Krypton.
I like that too.
Yeah, we don't even do that.
That he just had one available, you know?
Yeah. Sandoval, he's very, very good.
Rafa Sandoval
is amazing. The art is amazing.
He starts doing his own investigating, and he kind of figures out some shit's going on, and then he actually confronts it or says something about it, or maybe that already happened, or maybe it's about to happen, before his parents really get a chance to tell him. So there's his dad foolishly trying to go to the Science Guild or whatever to tell them what's going on. They're like, you dumb laborer, you don't know nothing. Of course, they're kicking him out. He runs and tells mom. Yeah. Back.
What a woman.
Right. It's like, that's pretty funny that, like, the first, and then just his look, the first, like, real act of, like, badass heroism that he ever saw was by his mom.
Yeah.
And notice
the suit.
that, the suit, it's either the same suit he's wearing now or just like, maybe they all have a version of this suit. I don't know, but it looks like he inherited the suit from his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's also going to probably, when he gets to Earth, he's probably going to need to look into some Freud, and because there's something happening here.
That might just be you projecting, Dane.
Yeah.
What? No.
I mean, she's not my mom. I can think she's hot all I want.
Right. I like how Dane takes that moment to turn his camera off. It's just like, I gotta hide something, guys.
Morty was beating on the door.
Likely story.
Likely
story.
And then here she comes. Oh, she comes.
Crypto. And crypto has it too, yeah.
That's pretty great. That actually makes it make sense why a goddamn dog would be wearing a cape.
Fuck yeah, it does.
It's like, well, because it has a functional purpose. It's lava. Her gun shoots lava.
I do like that these guards, their outfits, their uniforms are very Judge Dredd inspired with the
yeah, I noticed that too.
And the gloves and the faceless helmets.
Just standing there on top of him.
Who's a good boy?
Don't tell me she is a fucking stone cold badass.
Yeah.
Because she is. Yes. She gets 2 money shots. Guess the suit works. You're an idiot. Tell your lawyer and ask mom not to shoot you anymore.
Even as a kid, Cal, we see where Cal gets it from.
He's like, this place should have been swarming with shock troops and judge generals. Why wasn't it? Because everybody was already leaving Krypton on starships.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't
and
supposed to.
Leaving the workers behind.
Yep.
You know that movie, what was it? 2012, I think it was called. It was really not a good movie, but it did have that one aspect that I was like, that's believable. Where they had these arcs where all of the rich people were escaping the planet in.
Yeah.
They'd been building underground for decades or some shit.
Yeah, a lot of the real life tech billionaires are doing that for real right now.
Yeah. Building bunkers in Hawaii and New Zealand and some other places. Which is really like terrible places to build those things if you know anything about their geography and their ecology. Just like, nah, bro.
He says, Krypton is dying. Yes, but... And you want to shoot me into space to save me, all alone, wearing mom's spacesuit from when she was a kid. He's like, I got it all figured out. And they're like, no, of course not. We're all going. We're going together.
1 sec, folks. We'll be right back. Keep going.
So they seem to believe that they are all going, as many cousins, neighbors, Kryptonians they can hold. So I wonder what happens between here and there.
Yeah, that implies that Supergirl might be along for the ride as well.
It might, yeah, maybe.
That's what the cousins reference was.
I always like the idea of Supergirl being, like from a different time on Krypton and just like taking the long road to get to Earth or whatever. And I mean, that was kind of interesting perspective to have, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just like she basically knew Kal-El as a baby, but now they're the same age kind of thing due to time dilation.
Yeah. Well, now he's older than her. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the good things, I think, the few good things that the New 52 introduced into the Superman mythos was that Supergirl was actually traumatized by the destruction of Krypton because she could remember what it was like and remembers her family there and everything. And it gave her a bit of that edginess that the New 52 liked usually.
I don't know that I read much. The one Supergirl, the introduction of Supergirl that I read, which was, I think, the origin before the New 52, was the one done by Michael Turner had actually drawn it, and it was really fucking cool.
Yeah, her backstory is like everything in DC Comics. It was a mess.
So
because they kept retconning everything.
This woman's withering away day after day, asking for her son. Is that Is that Laura?
I don't
No?
know. I think we're not supposed to know, right? But it looks, because the picture on the table looks like the Kent family, but that could just be, because it's hard to tell how old Kal-El is in that picture because of the angle. So it could just be Laura and Jor-El older.
But it also could be because they said that she never had any children, so they have her records, but they don't have any
Yeah.
records for having any children. So that seems like it might be Martha Kent, because
Yeah.
they would have had her records, but then if they got him as a boy
Yeah.
or whatever, then
The story has been planting Kent Easter eggs the whole time.
Whole time,
We've
yeah.
seen the ruined Kent farm and other stuff like that. So
The other
I
thing
think
could
it's
be
Kent, but they're leaving it ambiguous on purpose.
right. Another possibility is that when we're talking about maybe they try to come to Earth together, but when you're talking about intergalactic space travel, time is funny. Something fucks up, and they arrive way early. He arrives late.
Oh, it does say Martha Kent right here.
Yeah.
Well, there it is.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I didn't notice that the first time. Okay.
Me either.
But Martha Kent could be anything, right? Like, we don't know that it's her.
Yeah.
Martha. Yeah.
And then, quite to my surprise, we got a sneak peek of the new Aquaman, which I'm very excited about, because along with Green Arrow here, Aquaman is my favorite DC superhero.
Wow.
It's a tie between Aquaman and Green Arrow, which is kind of ironic considering that Green Arrow is a socialist and Aquaman is a literal king.
Right. You are the second person I know who is that big an Aquaman fan.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's the other one? We should meet.
I said it because that's her name, Screwface Capone. What are you asking me that for? That's a weird question. Sorry.
Like, that's one of those things that, like, I thought was cute. Like,
there's a way to have done that could have been executed that would have worked okay.
Yeah,
What, the Martha moment?
The Martha thing, that both their mothers are named Martha, is funny.
It could have been cleaned up with like 30 seconds of dialogue earlier in the film,
right?
Where Clark Kent is doing background research on Bruce Wayne and finds a file and goes, "Huh, his mom was named Martha too."
Right.
That's all. That's all you needed to do, and then it would make sense that he was using psychology on Batman.
Right.
Anybody read this?
I did not read that.
I read it.
Poor Nick Fury.
Well, spoiler alert. Poor that Nick Fury.
Or all of them, I guess.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, coming after this, and how recently great Ultimates has been, I feel like the intro of the Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of just exposition. Like, nothing really happened.
Yeah, I think it was just necessary to, like, and what I think it is like, here's America's origin. Here's why she's here. She's gonna stay, and then also here's a surprise helping hand at the last minute when all seems lost, whenever the big battle comes, because I think the Guardians are going to come through at some point.
Well, and they reveal that, like, they are, while they're from the same universe, they're not from the same timeline,
right?
Because they made a spaceship out of 100 years of the timeline before the maker fucked it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, this issue in particular, though, I think is really good as far as, like, filling out the world, outside of the Ultimate. I think it really is a good, beneficial, supplementary thing. Just to, like, how far, not just the maker, but Nick Fury in the maker's name has gone to kill superheroes and shit like that. And
right.
And then also following up on that big battle, in Kunlun, you got Hulk, who's like, "Careful, Fury, I've recently rediscovered my appreciation for mindless violence." So they've already pushed this Zen-like Hulk a little bit past where he was before. So that's kind of
right.
funny.
He's lost a little bit of his chill.
Yeah.
Especially because they got away, right? He doesn't have closure.
Wait, this is the Ultimate Nick Fury? I thought he was Sam Jackson lookalike.
That's a different Ultimate Universe.
That's a different Ultimate Universe.
Okay.
This is the new Ultimate Universe.
This is a different universe.
It's like New Coke.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess this is where we learned that he is a white man again in this one.
A white man.
Oh.
But hey, at least Devil Dinosaur is there to help. I see that. That's cool.
No, I think he killed Devil Dinosaurs. What that's trying to
he
indicate.
murders Devil
Oh
Dinosaur.
man.
I mean, he murdered Dum Dum Dugan for fuck's sake. He's killed everybody. Here's a little baby, baby fucking Black Bolt. He killed. He killed the Mighty Pack or whatever they're called, Power Pack.
Yeah, I see up on the page before he killed Mantis.
He's the one who gave fucking brain injury to Hank Pym.
Yeah.
Made him not so smart
this
no more.
Nick Fury is a bad guy then.
And that's what he spends the whole issue saying. And, he's a bad guy, but also he's realized now that he needs to make up for it. And so there's been this time countdown going the whole time on his watch as he's kind of catching up the council and everything. And they're getting bored. They're like, why haven't you killed the Ultimates yet? And he's like, blah, blah, blah. And he's kind of giving them all, giving us a recap of what he's done over the last 60 years or so and how far he's gone to make the Maker's world that he wanted. Mm-hmm. But then also why he's like, yeah, I'm done. And I got to do something to make up for it. And then it's supposed to be a bomb that blows up and kills them all. But it doesn't.
There's the bomb.
See you all in hell. And then nothing happens. He's like, huh? And then they all start laughing at him. And this is apparently something that happens like once a year where they have a Nick Fury that thinks he's going to do this and tries some kind of a plan to kill them all. And but it's all written into the program of how they maintain control because, I think it's Hulk or somebody says like, well, look, we're using a spy, like the world's greatest spy. We have to account for the fact that he's going to betray us.
Right.
He's a spy.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's written into the narrative kind of thing. And so eventually he does whatever and they're aware of it and they let him play it out and then nope, sorry. And then he fucking dies. And then they uncork a new one.
Yep. They decant a fresh clone and we're off to the next one.
Yep. And that's pretty insidious, man.
It's an advanced level of fuckery.
It is. It's very similar to Neo's revelation in the end of Matrix Reloaded.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you thought you were going to do a revolution, but your revolution is part of the program.
Right. That's the plan, asshole.
Yeah. And this is what it was really all about for me, was getting to see, it's pretty
Ultimate
simple.
Winter Soldier.
Ultimate Winter Soldier, who is this guy? Fuck yeah.
This is very Bob-like, snickety fellow.
Yep. Born and died and born again. They called him Logan once, then the specimen. No more. Now he is ours, our Winter Soldier.
Well, now we're going to get a different crop of mutants in his book, it sounds like, versus the Peach Momoko ones. Which that has gotten increasingly horrified. And I know you're not reading it, Dane, but there is a member of the Wolverine family who has shown up in that book.
Is that right?
Yes. He's in a bad way and being his blood is being used to create more mutants because they have Akihiro strung up in a lab.
Wait, Wolverine's son?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, okay. Let's talk about X-Men.
Let's talk about X-Men.
Am I the only one that's starting to feel like it's kind of slowly meandering back into just like what it was at one point? Now, I'll say that this is still better than what a lot of the aimless, what the fuck is even happening, what's the point anymore kind of shit that happened prior to the Krakoan era for several years.
I think we are, okay, so I'm really of two minds because I think the writing, the character writing in several of these books is amazing.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, Uncanny X-Men, the writing is fantastic.
I was going to ask, which are we talking about? The Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone?
That's
Gail
the one
Simone.
you mean? Yeah, okay. That one's probably the best of the bunch. I would say NYX and Exceptional X-Men are very good. Adjectiveless X-Men is serviceable.
It's more of a story and action book, it feels like.
Yeah. X Factor and X Force are very much action books. But I think that this crossover has really pumped the brakes.
That's what it is. It's this crossover that's instantly was just like, oh, this has a lot of familiar feelings going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, oh no, they're X-Men are at odds with each other.
And there's some bad guys manipulating mutants with some brain.
They're mad
shit.
at Professor X, and or some of them are.
And Professor X isn't even around at the moment. I mean, he's coming back, but
I love Gambit with the Eye of Agamotto thing. Though.
Yes,
that's pretty neat.
Which he got from
He's about to make a name for himself here.
But like I forget that he has it, and suddenly he's like, "Oh, I got this thing."
Yep.
He's like, "Oh yeah, he does."
He gets it the first issue.
Sorry.
Gets it from literally beating up a dragon.
These new characters are starting to grow on me a little bit. I think.
Yeah.
I like this fucking creepy kid is fun.
The creepy kid is the best. So he's constantly alive and dead at the same time.
He died 9 times the day he was born. Something like that.
What?
Yeah.
What is his power? Is that his power? He keeps
kind
dying?
of exists. Yeah, going back and forth through death and life is kind of it's kind of a bit ambiguous so far. I imagine it'll be fleshed out more in the future, but like
his powers are ambiguous, but I like his perception of like danger is completely different, because to him, like, death and life are just like changing clothes.
So like Gambit says here, this is it then, the first charge of the Louisiana X-Men. And Jitter says, cool, a suicide mission. And he goes, really? Jolly. Unless you're teasing. Are you teasing? Rude.
Jitter's power is cool, where she has she has any superpower she can think of, but for 1 minute at a time.
Yeah. His best moment though, I forget his name, is
I forget his name too.
When he fucking scared the shit out of Nightcrawler that one issue. Like it was fucking that was so good, where Nightcrawler's like, comes in and he's kicking some ass or whatever, and this dude pops in and he's like, I don't remember what he said, but he just scared the fuck out of Nightcrawler, said something really creepy, and Nightcrawler's like, oh my god. This fucking kid is weird. But yeah. I do love to see Cyclops drawn more like an adult.
Yes.
See, like this should be the way that they are drawn in comparison to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, if you look at the adjectiveless X-Men, Stegman draws these two almost the same size and same age looking kind of thing. Is kind of weird.
And draws Juggernaut, maybe the biggest I've seen Juggernaut drawn in a while. Like, Juggernaut is almost the proportions he was in like Deadpool 2, where he is just even bigger than that. He is the size of buildings.
Yeah, he's a good size here, but I think he's bigger in the other book.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I didn't notice this bub face till just now. Holy shit.
That's a bub face.
So I've been trying to decide which of the rebooted X-Men titles I wanted to read, and this is the one I had my eye on because Gail Simone is writing it.
Yes.
So
yeah, but it's also they're weaving in through 2 of the titles right now, and then later in the year, I think they're going to weave all of them. Are going to weave it.
Well, I mean, this is a good jumping off point, but I think because this has like the X-Men, a lot of the X-Men characters I really like Wolverine, Nightcrawler,
what
Gambit.
I'm saying, this issue in particular would not be, because you would be.
No, I mean like starting from issue 1.
Yeah, I would start it from issue 1. I would start it because it's all like the last 2 issues with this crossover have been fine, but like everything before that, every issue's killer.
Especially, I mean, like the first issue, second issue are both phenomenal, genuinely phenomenal. Like there's a lot of breathing room for the characters. It was really, kind of, I mean, I guess I'd say ballsy of Gail Simone to make the first issue of Uncanny X-Men have almost no action in it, other than that first, bit with the dragon thing.
Mm-hmm. But you start on a like that's a promise for more, right? Like, okay, it opens with Wolverine, Gambit, and Rogue fighting a dragon.
Yeah. So like it's gonna be in here. Just trust me. Now we're gonna take a breather. We're gonna go meet a dying kid. We're gonna talk about our feelings a while and stuff like that.
And it turns out that dead dying kid was actually a badass the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like he dies in the first issue, and he remains a badass every time he's brought up. He's actually really cool.
He has a big part to play despite being dead.
Yeah.
Ransom, I like Ransom. He's kind of cool. He just doesn't give a fuck. Like I like the fact that what is it? He's kind of following Wolverine's lead. These are both the kind of the loose cannons a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Rogue's talking. She says, "I know who to worry about. Everything hangs on them staying cool." Logan and Ransom. Ransom says, "Do we rush him?" He says, "Not unless he reaches for his temple. Then it's go." Damn it all to hell. If he reaches for a temple, then you go. I don't know. I guess it's just maybe it's partly Cyclops versus Wolverine that makes me kind of like think of Schism and all that shit. And I'm like,
yeah, it definitely like there. I think that's part of it is that like we had the literal bromance between Cyclops and Wolverine in the Krakoa era and right before the Krakoa era. We're like going back to them fighting is very much a callback to some of the worst X-Men of the 21st century.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And maybe they're setting it up that way for that expectation so that they can, undermine it.
Mm-hmm.
So they can put a twist on it and do something with, subvert it is what I should have said.
Yeah.
They're trying to subvert your expectations.
Jed McKay's Avengers is so much better than his X-Men. It's crazy.
It's wild. I just started reading his Avengers from issue 1, and I'm like, why isn't X-Men this good?
It's really, really good.
Sure.
If you enjoy it, you should go back and read his Moon Knight from #1 too. That's really fucking good.
When I get around, I will have to get around to that. I will say one thing about Adjectives X-Men is I love the relationship between Magic and Colossus because they share one very violent brain cell.
Oh, you mean Juggernaut?
Yeah, Juggernaut. Yeah, Juggernaut and Magic share a very violent brain cell together. And I love them.
So in Ransom, he went for his temple. He's like, no, he was touching his comm switch, dude. Should have been more specific.
Yeah.
And he just fucking clocks him. I forget what his power is other than he doesn't have a heart. Like, what is his power?
I will have to look that up because the 4 rookies, their powers are still a little underdeveloped. Like the 4th, who you don't really see in this because she's being held prisoner, which is why they're there. She claims not to be a mutant, but she can give her horse powers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she thinks her horse is a mutant.
She reminds me a bit of Magic in a way, of just like how her powers work and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, just slight complaint. Like these books are still quality X-Men comics, especially compared to, like I said, a lot of the stuff of the decade or so prior to Krakoa.
I think we're not back to the dark pits of the Bendis era.
Yeah. Oh god. Bendis X-Men was I tried to avoid it for a long time, but it really was bad.
I think that for me, the Bendis era, starting with like AVX, is worse than bad. It's aggressively mediocre. Because like at least a bad comic.
You know what it is? It's
a lesson. What's?
It's just aimless.
It's aimless. Yeah. There's nothing to be learned from it, right? Like I think there's been plenty of like perfect example, Clone Saga, right, with Spider-Man. Clone Saga is not a good story. But things happen and it matters and it has continued to matter, even though it's a shitty story. And lessons were learned from it, where I think the lesson from the Bendis era was, I don't know, I guess for Rick Remender was doing some good stuff at that time. Like,
the lesson is don't hire Bendis to write the X-Men.
that's the lesson. Yeah.
Juggernaut has earned his place on the team.
Yeah.
Really a couple times over, but in particular during Krakoa,
Yeah.
he was one of the only non-mutants allowed to live there, just like that wasn't like a partner with somebody, because I mean they allowed, if you were married to a human or something, you could live there, but
Right. He is Charles's half brother. He is the nicer brother, which is interesting. Like, that develops throughout the Krakoan era, that like, oh no, Kane is the nicer brother. Charles is the monster. Kane just looks like it.
Kane just had some emotional problems earlier on.
And now he has them sorted out mostly.
Yep.
And not in a way where he's like really passive or anything. He's still like a big, tough guy. He's still the brute, but he's your brute.
Yep. I mean, I think it makes sense to have non-mutants on the team whenever, in rare examples, in the same sense that, to have the Avengers Unity Squad where you have mutants on there, to show unity, literally.
Right. Well, and how many times has Deadpool been on an X team of some variety and he's not a mutant?
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. I forget what his comic book origin is. I remember in the movie, it's that they basically activated recessive mutant genes or something.
I think that's what it is in the Deadpool movies. Yeah. In the comics, he was experimented on trying to replicate Wolverine's powers.
Which, by the way, this is pretty exciting. I just was reading this before the stream. I didn't even finish it, but there's a new Wolverine Deadpool comic.
Mm-hmm. Pierre was telling me about it. Apparently, it's pretty good. I have not checked it out.
By Ben Percy and drawn by Cassara, and that's a good team for these guys. You got right out of the gate, you got Deadpool stealing a corpse from a funeral of some mafia guy, and he's just, and then they're chasing him down, and he goes over a cliff. The thing flies out of the window, and then right into helicopter blades. So Deadpool.
Indeed.
But he just wanted his teeth. He had adamantium teeth, so
that'll do it.
I like this. Just real quick. Here's a fucking fun Bub moment. He's drinking at this bar, and these guys are picking on this dude because he, seems to have moved the darts midair. Wolverine gets up, smashes his beer in this guy's face. Smash.
Jesus Christ!
You made me spill my beer.
You owe me a beer, asshole.
You made me spill my beer. Anyway, plenty of stuff to discuss. I've been reading a lot of Exo Manowar. I will say this: if you are someone who uses the Kindle or Amazon service, this is now fully available. And I know that Morgan, I think I'd talked to you about it, and you seemed interested.
Yeah. It's definitely on my to read list.
Especially for not being cape shit,
Mm-hmm.
What is this?
It's a sci-fi
thing called We Only Find Them When They're Dead by Boom Studios. And it has to do with the far future, and they find these dead god corpses out in deep space, and they harvest them for all kinds of shit. The gods are always beautiful. The gods are always dead. So then they, it's like basically about this ship that is one of many. They have these big knives that they use to cut into the god flesh, and they take little pieces of it, and they fucking take it back and sell it. Just, capitalism in action. But you're literally carving up the flesh of gods.
They sell it for what? Food?
Food? Stuff like miracle cures, and like I think it's the new stuff for energy. It basically does everything. It's what powers everything in this future.
Ooh, Richard Pace is in the chat.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome back.
Like, hey, what's up, Richard? So yeah, it's like Rhino Horn, except more. So like here is, they're just literally cutting out fucking meat from this dead god corpse and taking it to sell.
I will have to check this out. I had not heard of this title, and it's a very intriguing premise.
Isn't it?
Very original, very unique, very pretty, and yeah.
So it's being written by Al Ewing. Who are the artists?
Simone DeMeo is the artist.
I love the
okay.
art.
I thought that was like two last names, like Ewing and then Simone. I thought it was Gail Simone, and I thought DeMeo was someone, a third person.
I was 5 years old when I saw my first Dead God. In 3 days' time, we'll see a live one. So nobody's ever seen a live one. They literally, as the title suggests, only find them when they're dead. Have you checked this out, Richard?
I have to agree about Ben Percy. I haven't read his Marvel stuff, but he had a very extensive run on Green Arrow during the Rebirth era and at the very end of New 52, and it was some of the best Green Arrow stories I've ever read.
I would say Percy, Camp is getting up there too. Al Ewing isn't always on his A game, but I think even Al Ewing's B game is pretty fucking great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing I like about Percy is everything I've read by him, he always brings like a tint of horror to it, because he's started it, I think, as a horror novelist, or he has at least written horror novels outside of comics. So there's always like some element of horror in everything I've ever read by him.
Oh, another one is Simon Spurrier is very, very solid, in my opinion. And then I was trying to find this one thing. I'd have to dig too far, but like the thing that made me fall in love with Percy's writing, I think, was just his Wolverine run, but also reading the crossover with Wolverine and Ghost Rider, when Wolverine's like, Ghost Rider tells him basically, you get on the back of the bike and we can get there in no time, kind of thing. And they're like going across the country, and Wolverine's like, ah, shit. And he gets on the back of the motorcycle, and it just shows him like the fact that he took the time to several panels where he's just holding on to the back of Ghost Rider and his flames are just melting his flesh off as he go down the highway. It's fucking.
That's fantastic.
See, that's what I mean by Ben Percy.
Yeah. Like, you didn't need to include that, but you did, and I love you for it. Like, all right, I'm gonna go get some dinner.
All right, you do that. We're gonna do the same.
Good chat, everybody. We did it in just over 2 hours, so good
Perfect
job.
timing.
Excellent.
Everybody subscribe to the old ways.
Yes. Subscribe to Astral Fandom and the Fabcast.
Yeah. I'm thinking about live streaming myself in 2025.
Do it.
I tried it once a long time ago, and I didn't really have the tech for it. But my tech is a wee bit better now.
Just a smidge.
Yeah.
Just wee.
You can do a practice one off, not public sometime if you want to do that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Oh, excuse you.
I mean, I just have no idea what to talk about, I don't want to like chase the algo that much, but
we'll just open up whatever news sources you might be interested in reading on a regular day and talk about that stuff.
We should talk role-playing games.
Yeah, I could do that.
I'm
basically just lazy, and I don't want to like do a whole lot of editing or writing for YouTube, So
that's very fair.
All right. Well, yep. Everybody hit like, subscribe, and I think Shillcast is coming back this week.
Woo, Shillcast!
So that'll be fun. We got some shit to talk about.
Is Chariot officially joining?
I don't know if she is this week, but she is going to be joining. When she can, she will be. So
sweet.
We'll see. Anyway, also subscribe to Richard Pace. He's in chat. He does drawing and stuff.
And to Ramon Villalobos is what was it? New Cool Meat.
New Cool Meat. Yeah.
Yeah. New Cool Meat. Yeah.
Let's get those guys on again. Alrighty. Peace out.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to George Soros. Born into a Jewish family in Hungary, George Soros escaped Nazi occupation to build a life of freedom for himself and countless others around the world. Educated in England, he settled in America as he became an investor and philanthropist, supporting key pillars of open societies: rights and justice, equity and equality, freedom now and in the future. His inspiring generosity reminds us all of our capacity and our obligation to stand up to the abuse of power and to be guardians of democracy and all people yearning to be free.
My recommendation to President Trump is that you notify today that you're going to sign an executive order on Monday. One of the very first actions is to rescind the Presidential Medal of Freedom that's being given to George Soros today. Rescind it. They're going to say, well, you can't rescind it. Well, okay, well, fine. Try me. And send a team to track down Soros and take the medal back.
Is this one a dirty Nazi, General?
It is a disgrace that a demonic individual like that has gone out of his way to try to destroy this country.
Oh boy, Nazis.
Given